It's your boy ZFK, another episode in today's podcast marathon on ZFK Everything, the show with no bounds that talks about anything and everything. And I swear I'm gonna snap. I haven't talked about Bitcoin in the last 5 minutes. I'm tweaking, bro. I need to talk about Bitcoin right now. What do you think about that, Antonio?
I think that's amazing, man, because every time I see you, we're all about the Bitcoin. We're
Yeah,
just
man.
really stirring it
Bitcoin's
up.
what?
What? Just pay for that. I don't got any Canadian dollars. Do you want to take some of my Bitcoin, And he's totally cool with it because he's in the process of accumulating more and more Bitcoin.
Cash is trash, man. So really, the purpose of this particular podcast is we want to talk about another interesting thing that Antonio's introduced me to called Pi Network. Pi Network is a digital currency that can be mined from your phone, and you can do it for free. All it takes is a click of a button every day, 24 hours. Sounds schemy, but it's a real thing. It's legit, and when it hits the market, its value will go from nothing to something. And typically, when coins and tokens are initially offered on markets, they do pop right away. So, having any amount of these free Pi tokens might or may not be a small or large fortune in the future. So, Antonio, as you know, I'm going to take my last gulp of air and water before I just start spewing verbal diarrhea about Bitcoin. That work for you?
That works for me, bro.
What's your understanding of Bitcoin before I kind of break it down and do my elevator pitch?
So with Bitcoin, I was not aware of Bitcoin until my early college days. I heard a lot of people talking about Bitcoin, saying like, "Oh man, like, do you have any Bitcoin?" And I'm like, I had no idea what this stuff was. And
When did you first hear about it?
this was back in 2015.
About the same time for me is when I would have heard of it.
Yeah, like
So,
that's when I had like I've probably heard it like in 2008 or 2009,
yeah,
but I was just, had no idea. I was just not educated about it at all, and I'm still learning more about it.
right, right. Ironically, um, the mindset that I think most people have about Bitcoin and digital currencies is kind of almost like a security wall. It sounds schemy. It is used by criminals. It's an unsafe kind of currency space, according to people that aren't educated, and it's quite the opposite. We're going through a digital currency renaissance in the year 2020, and it's going to only continue to become greater and more mainstream in 2021. Honestly, I would call 2021 the year of the digital asset. So ironically, just to give you a background on how Antonio and I met, we met at LA Fitness in Niagara Falls,
Niagara
and one of
Falls.
the first things he pitched me on, I got into crypto in like 2019 November, so it's been about basically like a year anniversary to the recording date of today, and yeah, Antonio was trying to spread the good word and pitch me on some XRP and digital currencies. XRP is the top three largest by volume cryptocurrency, and he was pitching me it in the change room because we'd usually chat in the sauna or in the change room or something,
Yeah. Yep.
and like honestly, it was like in one ear out the other. I really couldn't. I wasn't capable of listening to what he had to say because it just didn't interest me, and it was just like, hey, bro, you're trying to pitch me on this magic internet money. Like, I don't care. So, anyways, I was
Yeah.
like polite about it. He
No,
wouldn't have known that I didn't give
yeah.
a fuck.
No,
But
I didn't care. I honestly just kept on talking, and I'm like, I was at that point. That was like the peak of like frustration because here I am. I'm like the last person to pitch anything like any scams or wanting people's money
mm-hmm.
for anything, and I'm just like I thought like you would be. I looked at him, thought he'd be somebody that may be interested in hearing about crypto. So I went on my spiel about it, and now a year later, this guy knows more about digital currency than I do, and
I'm obsessed, man. I'm obsessed.
yeah, if you do your education,
Yeah.
like anything, it's worth the time because people don't fully grasp the financial freedom that it can give you.
Yeah. So Basically, if I had to define Bitcoin, Bitcoin is this really amazing technology. Um, kind of the mythos behind it is neat. It's created by someone who we don't actually know the creator, um, and this is a smart move because Bitcoin is anti establishment and traditional currency, and we do know that the people that do run this world don't want change. They want to keep things in their lap. So by creating a disruptive technology such as Bitcoin, chances are that extreme actions could be taken against you. You're going against the traditional norm, and it's threatening the current kind of monetary system we have in place in America, Canada, and the world. And honestly, if whoever created Bitcoin was a public person or identity, I wouldn't be surprised if they were killed. Like it's that serious. But basically, the person that created Bitcoin is known as Satoshi Nakamoto. Um, and we don't know who that is. That could be a male, female, a group of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be anyone. There's been many people that have come out in the past and claimed to be Satoshi with no evidence or avail. So basically, um, Bitcoin, I would describe it as a decentralized option out of the traditional finance system. Um, Bitcoin is non-discriminatory. It doesn't care your race or what country you're from. As long as you have an internet connection, you can access the network and hold or trade Bitcoin. Um, what's neat about Bitcoin too is it's actually the most secure computer network in the world, and this is due to the way that transactions run on the system. And basically, how Bitcoin works is it was designed to benefit early adopters. And the way the transaction system works, that makes Bitcoin actually a bit slow transaction speed wise, but also helps its security. Is the whole network is made up of computer nodes. So a node is a computer. And essentially to incentivize honest nodes that don't cheat and lie transactions, and the system essentially rewards nodes that run good, honest transaction information. Is the Bitcoin reward. So again, Bitcoin is really hard to understand, and I hope I do make sense when I try and break this down because even I am still learning it, even though I've read multiple books on it and I've studied it for a whole year now. Um, the security aspect comes from the nodes, and the nodes can be anywhere in the world. There's hundreds of thousands of nodes. Anyone can run a node from their home. It just costs a lot of energy. And essentially, to do a Bitcoin transaction, um, there is an algorithm that has to be run, which is made up of complex math equations. And those math equations are solved by a single node. All the nodes in the system are competing to get to that math equation first. And whoever figures out the math equation is essentially validating a transaction. For a transaction to go through, it has to go through and do the math equation. When that first node in the network confirms if this transaction is valid, that node then sends that transaction record out to every other node in the network, and we call that network a blockchain. Once the rest of the network confirms that first node that validated the transaction is indeed correct, there's a Bitcoin reward that is given to that node that completed the task first, right? And essentially, that brings me into the next part of what makes Bitcoin a amazing currency, and that is its quality in terms of a hard currency that actually gains value over time rather than depreciating in value. And essentially, that Bitcoin reward is one of the most important things in Bitcoin. Originally, when Bitcoin was first rolled out, it was in 2008 or 2009.
2008.
The white paper explaining what Bitcoin was released on Halloween, October 31st, 2008, I believe. So that brings me back to the Bitcoin reward. Um, honesty and integrity in your node is appreciated because that adds security to the network, right? And for being an honest node, you get the the Bitcoin reward, right? So what's interesting and probably is the most interesting part about Bitcoin is the fact that Satoshi has programmed in um, basically scaled and guaranteed scarcity. And basically, if we go back to what gives something value in a currency or commodity, is essentially the agreement between two different parties that it has value, and scarcity versus abundance. When something is a super abundant item that has been manufactured in mass in, say, China, and you can create infinite amounts of this product, it's worth nothing, right? It's not nothing, but it's going to be cheap. Whereas something where it's hard to find it, like a diamond or gold, just like investors have used for thousands of years as a store of value, which is gold. Um, that scarcity factor really brings up the value on your commodity or currency, right? And the Bitcoin halving is what I'm trying to get at. And essentially, that Bitcoin reward that comes from a validator node making a correct transaction is what they get. And over time, we will see every 4 years this Bitcoin reward gets cut in half. And we call that the Bitcoin halving. So on May 11th, 2020 was the fourth Bitcoin halving. And every 10 minutes, miners would make about, I believe it was 10 and a half, no, 12 and a half new Bitcoin. Okay. So essentially, May 11th, that amount was sliced to 6.25 every 10 minutes. Now, bear in mind, the demand for Bitcoin does not just stay the same, it goes up over time and has been with even banks, governments, retail all piling in to get their share of the Bitcoin. That demand goes up. Whereas the amount of new Bitcoin being minted is continually dwindling and being halved every 4 years. So every 4 years, there is a supply shock that takes place in the network because you now have Bitcoin supply being cut in half, right?
Right.
So now we're just seeing the effects. I think like this is probably like the most historical time to be covering Bitcoin. Bitcoin pretty much through October and November has surged almost 60%. And now those Bitcoin profits are being laid over into altcoins, similar to like XRP. Just to define an altcoin is an altcoin is anything that's not Bitcoin. And we are just seeing the market go crazy right now, man. If you're someone that bought in at low parts of the market where it was not popular to and it was actually a scary time to invest, right now you are probably a happy camper like myself. So I just want to wrap up that Bitcoin pitch. I guess we'll review this later and see if I did a good job or not. I kind of feel like I was a little bit scatterbrained, but not a big deal because I'd like to make more videos about Bitcoin in the future. The big reason why Bitcoin is essential and popular is because of our traditional system. Basically, when I was talking about value, you and I are both okay to trade a $20 Canadian bill as a value of $20, right? Because both parties, we agree that that is the value of $20, right? To switch it over from Canadian to American, it doesn't make any difference. They convert a little bit differently, and a US dollar is worth more than Canadian for certain reasons. Doesn't matter. What's interesting about fiat currency, which is government central bank currency, is that they all trade to one superior currency, and that is the US dollar. The US dollar is in trouble and has been in trouble for decades. And you can ask your grandparents or your parents, you know, how much they used to pay for a cup of coffee or a can of soda decades ago, and they'll tell you it was worth way less. In my opinion, it doesn't cost any more to produce that today than it used to. And the reason being is because the value of the dollar has deflated over time. And I'll tell you why. That's a factual thing to say. Prior to 1972, all U.S. dollars used to be tied to gold. Yo, you guys, I can't do the talking. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries, sorry. Let's explain Bitcoin, sorry.
In regards to all currencies trading against the US dollar, what's important is that all government currencies are not equal, and they are never backed to anything of value, which brings me to the gold standard. In 1972, Richard Nixon confiscated everyone's gold in the US and trade for US dollars, and basically that brings us to the system that we have today. US dollar has no value besides the promise of value and the fact that we both agree that we like that cash, right?
Yeah.
And that is a problem that we face in the modern world today in economics, and things like COVID have hyper accelerated this weakness. And it's the fact that the world reserve our currency isn't backed to anything of value, which means whenever you need stimulus or you need to bail someone out or you need extra money for your military, this, that, whatever, boom, you just hit the fucking print button, right? And you just let it rip, man. Money printer go burp.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem. That creates abundance in a value pool. And when you are creating copious amounts of new minted US dollars, that devalues the whole pool essentially. And a rather disturbing fact is that 20% of the entire US dollar supply was created in 2020. Like, out of the entire supply ever.
That's crazy.
In 1 year. That's how rough things got with the ship of the economy. So essentially, with that said, you also have negative interest rates coming into play, and that is when banks actually will enact a negative interest savings rate into your bank account to basically force you to take your money out and invest it and stimulate the economy. It's anti-incentive to saving. So essentially now, if you have any sort of cash reserve, if you have a negative interest and a value in your dollar that's deflating, you now have to find new places to put it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your money over time. You have massive companies like Apple, for example, that are sitting on $800 billion worth of cash. Better believe that Apple isn't going to let $800 billion devaluate over the next decade or two, right? So they are going to find places to put their money that is going to be of advantage to them rather than a detriment. So basically what happens with Bitcoin, man, basically COVID was great for Bitcoin too, is we're seeing that people are waking up to this fact that the dollar isn't really going to perform well long term, and it's on its way out. And we are moving towards a digital future, whether that's a good thing or not. I don't think everything's good about it, but there's a lot that is good about it. And basically being an early investor in Bitcoin, you stand to reap the most benefit because you are going to get there before the mainstream news, before the mainstream retail, before the central banks get into it, which they already are. And even I guarantee you that governments are going to start buying Bitcoin. Iran actually just started buying Bitcoin last month because they're so crippled from U.S. sanctions that they need a way to pay their bills. So they've looked to the likes of Bitcoin. If you were someone that bought Bitcoin, let's say you bought $10 million worth of Bitcoin, I want to say 5 weeks ago, you should be up 50% of your money. You should have 15 million now. Yep. Which is impressive. I don't know where else you can flip money like that while you're doing nothing. And that's passive income, man. You need to find ways to make money while you sleep. Warren Buffett said that. If you don't find a way to make money while you're sleeping, you'll work to the day you die. Correct?
Correct. Yep.
So I hope that we covered everything we need to on Bitcoin there. Kind of just slogged through it. I'm getting better at my elevator pitch, but really giving that understanding of what Bitcoin is and why Bitcoin is important is going to help you realize why you should open up a Pi account. And yeah, so one other thing I want to cover too, there is many altcoins. You have to be careful with them in the market. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. But I just wanted to cover XRP quick. That's another hold that I am very, very bullish on. And like I said, Bitcoin is slow because that transaction has to be validated by an entire network of nodes. It can take anywhere between 30 minutes to sometimes hours. I had a Bitcoin transaction take 12 hours once, scared the living daylights out of me.
Oh yeah.
And
I've had one that has honestly taken like almost a whole day. And it's pretty pretty nerve-wracking, but you're pretty safe.
Yeah. So, in regards to why I like XRP, it is definitely a industry disruptor in the remittance market. And XRP is founded by a Silicon Valley company called Ripple, as you know. And their value proposition is essentially instant and near free payments wherever you want in the world. As long as you have access to internet,
Yep.
doesn't matter where you are in the world. You could be an international employee of mine or family or someone, and I can send you any amount of money, and it sells within 3 seconds.
2 seconds.
Like,
It's impressive.
how is that a no-brainer? What they're doing is they're basically disrupting the traditional bank system of remittances, and they're going to cut into their margins big time, I think, in 2021.
Huge.
And they already
Huge.
are. Ripple's adopting up to 7 banks a week, from what I've heard.
Yep.
And what happens when you send an international bank wire, if you don't already know, is
Expensive.
you have no
It's-
basically verification that the person got the money besides calling them up and saying, hey, did you get the money? It takes up to a week. And on top of that, typical rate for a bank to send your money internationally through a bank wire is 10%.
Yeah.
So if I,
That's
for example,
insane.
if I'm from, say, India, I come to Canada for the good life, and I got family back home, and I want to put bread on the table, I'm a baller. I made 100 grand. I'm gonna send that whole 100 grand to family back home in India. Bank's gonna scalp 10%.
Yeah.
Bank's not gonna get it to them for a week. Why wouldn't you just put it into, say, XRP, send it to them, know that they got it within 3 seconds, it'll verify it, and it's gonna cost you a fraction of a cent on 100 grand.
Seriously, do you recall the $63 million XRP transaction?
I'm sure that happens all the time.
It happens all the time, but it was
Billions of
it
dollars.
was really highlighted, and it was only like 59 cents
Wow.
for that. And imagine doing that through just regular, just fiat currency.
Yeah. Just so people know.
Just the loss of money is just ridiculous.
It's wasteful, man. And this is the future. We should be doing better than that. And if you are following the markets, which you're probably not, XRP is known to kind of lag behind Bitcoin and then kind of chill and test people's patience. And then when it does pop, it rips. I believe it went, in the last 2 days, it went from 30 cents to 56 cents Canadian.
Yeah.
Which is huge. That's almost a double on your portfolio. And yeah, I'm definitely extremely happy about it. I'm very optimistic, and I believe a price point of XRP in Canadian dollars could be anywhere between $5 to $25 in a year from now. Because basically, I guess the last thing I'll add on the Bitcoin halving is that halving causes a 4-year cycle, and we're basically coming up on the last year of the 4-year cycle. And that's where the market peaks are. And that's where you want to exit your positions, right? So with XRP going from just 30 cents to 56 cents Canadian in a matter of 2 days today is super exciting. It's breaking upward resistance on the charts. The math doesn't lie. If we basically look at it from a technical analysis perspective, it says, I sound so confident when I say this, I'm stumbling. Basically, the math says XRP has to go at least $5 US or Canadian, and I see it going between $5 to $25. Some people are a little bit less conservative, and I think XRP is going to go to 3 digits or 4 digits. I don't see it this cycle. I see it maybe in a decade or two.
Yeah.
But definitely
the
worth
supply
knowing.
is too big for that to
Yes,
happen, right?
yes.
And there's not enough people that are
The reason why
interested.
an XRP is worth less than $1, whereas Bitcoin today is worth like $23,000 or $24,000 Canadian, is because of the scarcity factor. Bitcoin only has 18 million or so units right now, whereas XRP has 45 billion. That's why it's worth less. And like, I hope that connects the two things between how the cash supply works versus Bitcoin, because who knows how many US dollars there are. We just created 25% more this year in 2020 to bail out society, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good thing in 2021 for the crypto market, is the fact that that stimulus, money printer go burr shit, that is not stopping anytime soon, man. We're not out of the clear yet. And basically the only way we're going to get out is just stimulate the economy with new money. best believe a lot of smart people are going to take that free government money and put it into Bitcoin or crypto and etc. Right? So yeah, I'm super optimistic on it. Definitely look into Bitcoin and XRP. So yeah, that brings us to Pi, and hopefully that gave you some sort of grasp on what Bitcoin is and why cryptocurrency should be an important thing that you should get some skin in on the game. Um, Basically, with Bitcoin and crypto, again, I think most people have the mindset that I was talking about earlier of magic internet money. It's not something that makes sense. It's not something that you care about, so you really aren't
You're not
interested in
supposed to
hearing it.
understand it either. Like
Yeah.
you don't really have to dig too deep into it.
Yeah.
You could educate yourself a little bit, like get a like you're
Yeah.
like a grasp of it. But if you just understand the direction that it's heading in with the economy and how things are changing, and if you're moving with the flow, you're not going to regret it in 5-10 years, maybe even quicker.
Your time preference has to be of a long-term time preference. When you trade value for instant gratification and short-term pleasure, you're not helping yourself out in the future. In fact, you're kind of kicking your financial future down the street. What's that saying? Kicking the can down the street.
Kicking the can down the street.
And really, you want to be setting yourself up to be in the best position possible in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And by basically limiting the amount of money you're spending on things that don't make you money and putting them into things like Bitcoin or stocks, for example, this is a way to future-proof your financial situation. And because of the state of the economy and the way the dollar works, I totally, hands down, believe that Bitcoin is kind of... Chamath Palihapitiya is a huge Bitcoin investor and has had it for many, many years. He actually owns Golden State Warriors. So I think he's a billionaire. But he's coined Bitcoin as Schmuck's insurance. He doesn't want to have to use Bitcoin, but because he sees the way that the economy and the dollar is going and the direction that is inevitable with that, he calls Bitcoin Schmuck insurance. He doesn't want to have to use it, but he probably will have to because no politician is going to cut off the stimulus when we need it. People just care about getting into office, and if they can offer more stimulus to help out the little man, which is a good and bad thing, that's what they'll do. So yeah, I guess that wraps up Bitcoin. Since Antonio and I have become like better friends, hooking up at the gym and hooking up. Wrong choice of words. But yeah, working out or talking about similar interests with Sue and Pi, I would like to toss the show off to you and have you explain what is Pi and what gives value Pi in the future. Because right now Pi actually has no value.
Yeah, so right now I stumbled upon Pi. This was about a year and a half ago, and I introduced Pi to you. When was this? This was July.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple. You could just download it. It's on your phone, so you don't have to use a computer system. It's just you could just flip your phone open, and every 24 hours for human verification, which is the most trusted way that we can agree on things. You just have to tap the button every 24 hours, and you basically just have to build your network if you want to earn at a higher rate. And I could show you guys what it looks like written on here if you want to check it out.
I'm trying to see it, but I know what it looks like.
Yeah, so right now Pi is at 9.5 million users, and like Bitcoin, they have been doing their halvings at the amount based on the user base.
5 million, 10 million, 15 million, something like that, right?
I believe it goes from, instead of 10 million, it actually shows right here 100 million it will have. So only 500,000 more people until it gets more scarce, like Bitcoin.
So similar to Bitcoin, it has that halving aspect, which I think is great. It's built-in scarcity. But there's a base amount of Pi that you mine when you open an account. And do you know how much that is per hour?
The base is 0.4.
Okay, so that's how much you earn per 24 hours.
If
and
you're to
to
mine
prove
alone.
that you're not a bot, you have to come back and click your mine button every 24 hours. Yep. So with that said, similar to Sue, this has a referral program The more people that you invite, the higher your yield is per hour on Pi. I think right now, let me just check. I have 6 people that I have introduced to Pi, and 4 out of 6 are mining right now, and that makes me 0.8 Pi per hour. Since I didn't get into Pi in July, actually, I got into it in like October or September.
Yeah,
So just since then, I have almost 600 Pi.
Yeah, so if Zach were to get involved in Pi when I did,
When did
he
you get
would
involved in
have.
Pi?
That was June 2019, and because pi, the mathematical equation, 3.14, and then like 9 numbers after, you were mining your initial rate because there were only 10,000 people on the platform, and I was one of the first 10,000 people, and that's how I'm well connected with the owner of Pi. And this is Pi is run by some Stanford grads. So you know that there's a lot of credibility there. There's been a number of companies, the owners have graduated from Stanford, and it's a high success rate. So that has to have some credibility there. And right now, one of the things I wanted to touch upon was Zach, because he paid for this room
Oh yeah,
by
yeah,
himself, and I thought it
yeah.
would be a very educational um, way of showing the use of Pi. And there's only a certain amount of users that have access to this. So Pi doesn't really ask for much information. When you join Pi, it's through Facebook and your phone number. And if you want to further get involved, like if you want to, sorry, lost my words there. If you want to get further involved with trading, you have to have some kind of documentation that you're a real
KYC.
person.
Know your customer.
Know your customer.
All exchanges and traditional banks have to do KYC to truly prove your identity, and it's for anti-money laundering laws, right? So
Yep.
Pi has the same thing. They have to prove your identity so that you're not a bot or a criminal.
All right. So limited users have the option to transfer. So how do you want to do this right now? So
Okay, so I've never done this with Pi. You're gonna send me some Pi?
all right, yep. So because I have all of my verification set up, and I find a lot of people are a little bit hesitant with giving all this information, but you have to remember that if you want to open up a bank account, you have to give your verification through a photo ID, so driver's license or a passport. And that's the only thing that Pi is asking for. And they can't use any of that information without your consent. So when you're giving that forward, they're not able to share your data. So right now, I'm going to split the room price. So I'm going to transfer Zach. So I'll let you type in your username. So this is really important. So we're gonna go right here. Don't type anything. So ZFK. So just ZFK visuals.
Oh, should have known.
Come on, man. That's like you use that on every platform.
It's like not knowing my own name.
So right now the amount. This is what I believe Pi would be valued at. I'm gonna say 15. Is that fair? If I give you 15 Pi for cutting it in half?
Yeah.
That's about $3. That's about $3 a coin.
Yeah, it's more Pi than I had before, man.
Alrighty.
I think we didn't mention this too. The fact that Pi is an early coin. I'll open this up for you so you can do whatever you need to do. What's interesting with Pi is because it's not listed on any exchanges, it's actually worth nothing at the moment. However, with the halving system, I think when it hits 50 million users, they're gonna put it on exchanges.
Right now, the number that they were working with was 10 million. I still don't believe 10 million is enough people to get this going.
Yeah.
Most companies and most apps, once they reach 25 to about 30 million, that's kind of considered mainstream. So right now, I'm going to finish this transaction, and we're going to see how long it takes. Okay.
Sweet.
So you just type in the person's username. It says, be very careful about username spelling. The wrong username can lead to irreversible transfers. So that's you.
Yes, sir.
And the amount that I'm sending is 15 pi. And you just have to give a brief reason why you're doing it. Because Pi doesn't want people to be giving money for this. So like, let's say if I have 2,000, they don't want somebody to be buying it for a money value yet when it's not on the market. So the reason I'm putting here is splitting the cost of the boardroom for our podcast.
Sweet.
So that's
So when Pi gets listed on an exchange, it will certainly be more than a cent is what it'll be worth.
right.
But we're assuming if his wow alert, I received Pi.
Literally.
Let's go, Pi guys. Basically, when it gets listed onto an exchange, there will be a guaranteed amount of value over at least half a cent. And with that said, if history has drawn any conclusions in the past to how it goes in the future, when Pi is initially offered, it's going to be a bit of a spike, and it could go into the dollar range, could go into the 2-digit range. So I personally have almost 600 Pi right now.
How many do you have now after that?
I have 577.98 Pi.
So did it get deposited in?
Yep.
So you can also check on your, so right now, there you go. So you can check. So if you check your profile, let's see. So you just have, so Zach just has to wait probably a month until he'll get the approval of KYC. So knowing your customer, and by having more people with the full verification, it would allow the Pi system to reach the main net, and the main net is the final phase when it gets listed on an exchange.
So yeah, let's say you have 10,000 Pi, and if you invite enough people, you could garner that within a few months. It's worth nothing, but I think that the chances of it getting listed on an exchange are very high because of the utility and the fact that people have been able to mine it from their phone.
And the ads too as well, right?
Yeah, and all that takes, man, if you have 10,000 Pi that you've mined for free for doing fuck all on your phone, if it goes to 50 cents, that's $5,000. If it goes to $1, that's $10,000. If it's $10, it's $100,000, bro. Free money, man. I know it sounds like a bunch of bullshit, but it's legit, man.
Technology's evolving so fast.
This is a future.
And
I would never have you on here with me to come, show some bullshit. So, I hope I didn't sound like a rambling douchebag on the Bitcoin rant. Like I said, I was just itching to get it out, and I hope it made some sense and maybe piqued your interest in Bitcoin. I think that once you have a little skin in the game and you start to kind of research what Bitcoin really is, I would describe it as a rabbit hole that you won't come back from once you journey down. It's really a red pill thing, and breaking out of the traditional world of finance is a big thing, and it's going to set you up in the future to be way ahead of your colleagues and acquaintances. So definitely contact Antonio or I on Instagram if you want to get a referral link to Pi. What is your Instagram?
My Instagram's Antonio David 33.
Okay, right on.
But if you want to connect with me on Pi, it's Antonio David 1.
Sweet, man. All right, well, I appreciate you taking some time and loading me up with some free Pi. Let's hope that shit goes to 3 digits. And
what's you asking for some money back?
What's 100? Yeah, what's $100 times 15?
Come on, man, that's simple math.
Quick math.
1,500.
Thank you. $1,500, man. So
Seriously.
hopefully 3 digits. We'll see what happens. Thanks again for coming on, bro, and we'll talk about Pi in the future on another podcast.
Awesome.
All right, this has been ZFK Everything. Thanks for tuning in, and get your Pi, get your slice.